Okay, this is my first time back on camera in quite a while, and I thought I'd come on here to kind of formally introduce my fifth rewatch through the Star Trek franchise on social media. I've been doing this for 10 years, mostly on Twitter, and I'm going to get into a little bit more about where this is going to live in a few minutes. But rather than posting, a long series of text, explanations, trying to cover all this stuff, I thought it'd be cool to come on camera, talk about it for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and, you know, answer the obvious questions. This is my fifth time through, so what's going to be different? What's going to be the same? Why am I doing this? All that stuff will hopefully be covered in this video, and it'll kind of serve as like the opening salvo to kind of begin this journey that'll take a couple of years to complete, no doubt. So, to kick this off, I guess I'll talk about what's going to be the same as what I've done in the past. Well, obviously, the big one is I'm going to watch every professionally produced episode of Star Trek and review them one at a time as I go through the process on social media. If you followed me in the past on Twitter doing this, you know that I usually will do one tweet with a review in that single tweet, with a grade or a rating of some sort. And then from that, I eventually pull together all kinds of data points. I do rankings, I do charts, I do averages for seasons and series. And I do that for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's because I've been a Star Trek fan my whole life. And while this is the fifth time I'm doing this on social media this way, I've been watching this stuff since I have been conscious. And this process, doing it this way, forces me to really take a look at each thing and avoid making it background noise, making it something I just throw on after a stressful day at work and kind of mindlessly watch and decompress to. I want to be challenged by it. I want to think about my life experiences and how they have changed, how I look at these stories that I've known since I've been young or I'm just getting to know now because some of it's really new. But I want to be able to be surprised. And the way to do that is to force myself to try to watch it through fresh eyes each time. And the rankings, the ratings, the ability to make these data charts and visual aids allows me to visualize my fandom and look at how things have changed from time to time over the years. And that's been successful and I really enjoy it. And then the added bonus of getting to share it on social media allows me to not do it in a vacuum. I'm not just doing it for my own benefit. I'm not sharing it with a few friends who I think might enjoy it. I get to throw it out there, and anybody out there who's consuming it in any capacity can share their opinions if they agree or disagree. I love that. That's why I do it. To hear what people think and to engage with other fans. And I've gotten to make really good friends by doing that, and I hope to continue to do it. So all of that's going to stay the same. The basic construct of how I do it, why I'm doing it, what the ultimate end goal is to rank everything and have all the visual stuff that if you followed me for a while, you've kind of come to expect will still be a part of this. A big part. Secondly, I've gotten a lot of really cool suggestions from friends on how to change this up through the what order to watch it in kind of space. And a lot of folks have suggested watch it in chronological order instead of air date order, the way that I have typically done it over the last few of these. I used to watch this for this purpose with the social media rewatch in chronological order, meaning starting with Enterprise and not the original series and kind of watching it in the order that the shows were produced. This new era of Star Trek is kind of bouncing all over the timeline and offers a lot of really cool new ways to look at this stuff through watching that way, and I look forward to doing that again at some point. I'm not doing it this time. I really struggle with my Star Trek OCD with Star Trek Discovery's mixed placement in the timeline, depending on which season you're in. You're in the 23rd century or the 32nd. I love that stuff. I love Star Trek Discovery, as anyone who knows me is well aware. But I do struggle with the idea of breaking it up to that extreme extent. I get that there's a lot of cool opportunities to watch the show that way, to get the maximum amount of creative juice out of that choice that they make to jump that far into the future by taking that long break away and feeling the impact of the jump that way. I look forward to doing that someday, but I did focus more in thinking about how to change this. I focused more time thinking about ways to force me to look at episodes through completely fresh eyes and less on things like the order and, admittedly, my Star Trek OCD, like I said, got in the way. So I hope to do that in the future, but that's not going to be a big factor here. I'm going to pretty much be watching. Well, I am going to be watching in air date order. That's how this one's going to go. Starting with the Man Trap, through the animated series, the original movies, into TNG and onward as the shows have been released. So what's going to be different? First of all, like I said kind of at the opening, this has largely lived on Twitter over the years, along with here on Trek Live, where I talk about Star Trek with my buddy Dan, who's been a huge help with coming up with these different things that I'm doing, and that I'm going to talk about in a second. So if you're out there watching, Dan, I'm sure you are, because this is your channel too, I really appreciate everything that you did to help me feel good about this and come up with some hopefully interesting, cool new ways to do what I do on social media and here on Trek Live. Blue Sky is going to be a big change. Most of the Star Trek community that I interact with, that I love to be a part of, has kind of migrated over the years to Blue Sky, or at least over the years away from Twitter, and recently has landed on Blue Sky as kind of the, in my opinion, in my experience, the kind of new home of my family of Star Trek fans. And that's going to be an interesting change, because there are folks that are there on Blue Sky that I haven't really interacted with through doing this in quite some time, because I left Twitter long ago, or became much more pulled back, less engaged presences on Twitter, at least, where they're much more active here on Blue Sky. I also see the community on Blue Sky growing. I feel like I gain new followers all the time. I see new people joining and becoming a part of the conversation, and I think that's great. I'm looking forward to the change in environment, and hoping that things like this, sharing these kinds of reviews and getting people talking and doing my one little part in trying to inject a little bit of Star Trek conversation into that new home on Blue Sky, will help cultivate, a chatty, positive, upbeat community of people that Twitter once was for Star Trek fans. And I hope to, again, do my part to try to build the Blue Sky community up through doing what I do and what I love to do. So that'll be a big change. But the most notable change is going to be how I rate or grade the episodes. For the first 4 of these, I use the American school letter grading system. The best of the episodes got an A, the worst got an F. And if you went to school in the United States out there, you know what that looks like, because you dealt with it your whole lives growing up. So that's what I've used for years now, and it's worked well. However, I think it's allowed me to rest on my laurels a little bit. I kind of, as much as I try to wipe the slate clean and start anew with each one of these, I can't help but kind of know what I gave each episode in the past, and I find doing this over and over again that most of the reviews and the ratings are pretty similar, time to time, rewatch to rewatch. And that just kind of comes naturally as a result of doing it the same way. It's mostly a gut check feeling. That episode feels like an A, that episode feels like a C. And it's kind of that over and over again, and most of the time episodes land within a few feet of each other, of where they were previously, I should say. I see marginal changes here and there. An episode moves from a B- to a B, or a C+ to a C-, but it's not big radical shifts. So, and that's understandable, and that makes me feel like my tastes and opinions are pretty locked and loaded, and that's to be expected. But I wanted to come up with something that forces me to think about the episodes differently, and to do something a little more than just that gut check reaction about, hey, that episode feels like that, whatever that is. So what I did, with Dan's help, my co-host here on Trek Live, is I drafted 5 questions that are intentionally built to be yes or no questions, creating a basically thumbs up, thumbs down, 1 point, no point kind of system. With 5 questions and 1 possible point associated for each question, it's a 0 to 5 scale. If an episode gets a yes answer and a point for all 5 questions, it's a 5 out of 5. It'll be among the best of the best. If it gets no's across the board, it could end up with a 0 out of 5, and it'll be at the bottom of the barrel. So I'm going to share those 5 questions here by kind of switching over to a Word document here in a second. I'm going to talk about each one, why I think they're important, what I'm kind of hoping to get at. These questions are kind of built to be aimed at the things that I love the most about Star Trek, like what makes Star Trek special to me. Why am I doing this a 5th time? Why am I continuing to come back to it year after year after year, time after time, even though I've seen these episodes many times over? These are not just kind of random. These are aimed at, like, what are the best qualities of Star Trek in my view. But I'm hoping that they're universal enough that people can play at home if they want to try. I mean, these questions will be pretty simple, straightforward, and if people want to try to kind of play along, they can ask themselves the same questions as they watch, or rebut an interview or a review that I give an episode by using the same system to come up with something different and to talk about why. I would love that, to hear people use my own system against me, and talk about why they think I might have the wrong idea about an episode. I think that would be great. But more than anything, it's really just designed to force me to not fall on my instincts and to really consider each episode as I go, and give it the time to really consider what it means to me and how it works on the various levels that I think Star Trek works best. So I'm going to switch over here and kind of talk about those 5 questions and go over what they are and how I'm going to answer each one. The first of which is on the episode in question's strength of concept. And it's, does the episode offer ideally some combination of a thematically compelling story, a strong science fiction idea, and insightful commentary of social issues or contemporaneous or historical events? So it sounds complicated, but it's really, is it a good story? And does it do what Star Trek does? Thematically compelling story? Is it just a baseline, well-told, strong concept, strong story? Does it do the thing that a TV show is supposed to do, or a movie? A strong science fiction idea. Star Trek's obviously a science fiction series, and many of the episodes are powered by unique, cool things that make it science fiction. And so I'm looking for that. Does the episode have that at its core, or offer insightful commentary of social issues or contemporaneous or historical events? Obviously, Star Trek's other big hallmark is it's about us. It's a show about humanity. It's about the times we live in and our social struggles and the historical events that influence us to this day, or to the day that the show is being made, at least. So I'm kind of trying to think about the episode through those lenses. Like, how many of these things does it do? If it does all of them, or it does a combination of them, that's going to be an easy point. If maybe it only does one of them okay, or it's strong in one area but not so much in others, it might be a half a point. And if I can't get to a point where I feel good about any of them, then it'll be a 0 out of 5. And I can see myself giving a full point to episodes that are really, really strong in one of these areas, while maybe not focusing as much on the others. I'm not going to get hung up too much on needing it to be some combination, but I really do think that many, many, many of Star Trek's best episodes do that. I think they do some combination of these 3 things in telling its story and building a concept that makes it uniquely Star Trek. So that's going to be question 1. Question 2 is going to be on character exploration. Is the episode powered by its presentation of core or guest characters, offering either satisfyingly achieved development or interesting new insights into these characters? And I frame the question this way because obviously each Star Trek show is a little different. Newer stuff, Discovery, Picard, focus much more on long-term character development. Things that happen in one episode are going to pay off later. That's a big part of this. Like, is it satisfyingly developing the characters, moving them forward? In other shows, it's more about, does it take our characters that we know and love, or certainly at least know, and put them in unique, new circumstances that compel or trigger or initiate some fresh reactions or fresh insights into who they are and how they react to the big things that happen in Star Trek? Is the episode powered by its use of its characters? Does it feel like a tangible strength of the episode, that it's doing cool, interesting things with its characters? If it doesn't feel like that, if it doesn't feel like the characters are on the front of its mind, or it's not doing interesting things to me, these are all subjective. These answers are going to be different, like I said, for each individual person. And that's inherent to this process when you're reviewing things and looking at these episodes. That's what makes it so great. But in my view, when I'm answering this question, it's really going to come down to, does it feature the characters in ways that are interesting and exciting and take advantage of their assets? Question number 3 is going to be on emotional resonance, and it's, does the episode comfortably integrate its genre and tone of choice and utilize the tools of its production to land its key emotive beats? So this is kind of a twofer. Genre and tone of choice. Obviously, Star Trek plays with those things endlessly. There are musicals now, there are comedies, there's romance, there's horror and thriller, and every genre you can think of, Star Trek's done in some capacity for the most part. Westerns, straight up dramas. It's does it use those genres and tones of choice to good effect? Does the episode feel at home in whatever genre it's using? Is it using those elements that make that genre unique to good effect? And is it using the tools of its production to land its key emotive beats? This is an area where I can think a little bit about things like lighting choices and cinematography and editing and transitions and score and costume and production design, all those elements that make the episode, unique from a production standpoint, are those things kind of pulling all in the same direction and feel like they're helping to land whatever emotional reaction that episode's designed to do. If it's a comedy, is it funny? Does it land its jokes? If it's a horror episode, is it a little disturbing, or is it genuinely scary? All these things are kind of being considered here. Question 4 is probably the one I struggled with the most and is going to be the most challenging to kind of work through as I do this. It's very amiable and open to interpretation, I guess, and it's on big picture impact. Does the episode offer anything to enhance its series' own big picture impact, or by expanding or contextualizing the broader Star Trek universe? How essential does the episode feel to its own show and to Star Trek as a whole? Does it do things that take advantage of the concept of that unique series, the unique qualities of that particular show, taking advantage of the core idea of that series? Does it feel like it's important to the point where if you pulled it out of a more curated rewatch, you'd be missing something? Because it introduces something with character dynamics or plot or production elements that become key later on. This is obviously a rewatch. I know what these stories are. I know how they pay off down the line. Does an episode of Next Generation feel really important because now it impacts something we see far down the line in Star Trek Picard? I'm looking for all kinds of stuff here, but it's really about like how central does it feel, and how at home does it feel in its own show? Does it feel like it's uniquely tailored to that series' kind of broad concept and the strengths of that series' core ideas? And lastly, it's the HFS scale, which is Holy Effing S for short. And it's really measuring my most subjective reaction. And it's probably the closest to the old school grading metric. Does the episode have an apparent sheen of this is a classic, or feel like a genuine personal favorite? If it feels like a real classic, it's going to be an easy full point. If it feels like a genuine personal favorite, like I really like it, but maybe I wouldn't give it a full A if I was still using the previous grading system with the letter grades, maybe that's a half a point. If it's more like a B plus or even an A minus, a B, that's probably only going to be a half a point. The episodes that are going to get an A here, or are going to get a full point, are going to be episodes that probably are talking feeling like a full A in the previous grading system. My true favorites, the ones that really feel like, yeah, that's the one. That's one of the big ones, and it's the you know it when you see it kind of stuff. It's hard to define. Everybody's own instincts come into play here, and the way people view these episodes are all different. But this is measuring my personal taste probably the most directly with a yes/no kind of response. So those are the 5 questions. Like I said, I would imagine that I'm pretty sure that the best episodes, my favorite episodes, are the ones that I feel the strongest about, are going to get yeses pretty much across the board, and they're going to be living in that 4.5 out of 5 or 5 full points out of 5 kind of territory, where others might be a little more mixed and live somewhere in the middle of that pack. And I'm hoping that doing it this way will actually create some fresh perspectives and new thoughts on some of these episodes, and having the rankings look different at the end of the day. Not everything that was in the top 50 in the last one is probably still going to be in the top 50, and there might be some different looks and different impressions coming from my own. I'm hoping to discover new things about my own taste and how I kind of stack these seasons and shows together. So I hope that makes sense. I want to thank Dan again, my partner, and everybody else out there who suggested different ways of doing this. I took a lot of it to heart. I took all of it to heart, and I thought a lot about it. There's a reason that this took a while. My last rewatch ended quite a while ago, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I'm hoping that this really creates a new way of thinking for me when I go through this, and it makes it feel like it's fresh and new again. And I hope others enjoy it as I work through it. So I hope you'll join me. I'll be posting some version of this along with a link to this video on Blue Sky to kind of put this in writing as well, share the questions in a way that's easily kind of, discoverable through social media if you find this kind of down the line as I'm going through the rewatch. But I'm hoping you enjoy. I'm hoping people find something that to take away from this, whether it's the reviews themselves or the data charts and the visuals that come later as I kind of work through it, or just enjoying talking about Star Trek, which I love to do more than anything. So Thank you for spending the last 20 minutes with me on this, and I hope to see you out there. Stay safe and take care, and looking forward to it.